Hey there, folks. Welcome to yesterday's news for September 11th, 2018. I know it's 9/11 today, but I'm not going to talk about that here. I did, however, write an essay and put that on my Facebook page. So if you are if you haven't liked my Facebook page and you find this, although I have more people on my Facebook page than YouTube, but go check out my Facebook page. So I'll try to put a link in the description. Since I'm doing this all on my phone, I don't know that I know how to do that, so I'll try. If not, you can just search for The Faithful Skeptic on Facebook. So anyways, actual stories for today. People have tried to make a racist mountain out of a silly little molehill related to Serena Williams and her recent outburst at whatever the tennis competition was. I apologize if you're into tennis. I don't follow sports in general, and tennis least of all. So, pardon my ignorance. I tried to read an article on the actual event, and it was all this like technical stuff about tennis, and I have no idea. So either way, she yelled at a referee or something like that, and someone made a rather amusing cartoon of Serena Williams throwing a big tantrum, and there's like steam coming out of her ears and I don't remember the exact picture. I might be remembering that wrong, but the absurd part is that they tried to make this into a racial thing, like claim that the cartoon was racist, and it's like it actually looks like her. Like that's how you would draw that person as a caricature. It's like that's what you do when you draw a caricature. You exaggerate their features. Like that's what you do. And believe it or not, people of different ethnicities actually have different facial features, believe it or not. And so, if you're going to draw a caricature of different people who look different, you're going to exaggerate their facial features differently because, they look different. I don't see how that's racist. That aside, I'm going down the wrong trail there. The real issue is that we can't be okay with people trying to stir up racial tension like that by trying to claim that something is racist or racially motivated or racially biased or whatever when it's not even relevant to the subject. There are a lot of people, mostly in the mainstream media, and certain politicians and political activists who benefit from racial tensions and racial conflict, and they are going to have a tendency to try to stir that up. And we have a responsibility to not let them. And, I'm guessing most people who would watch this show, all 6 of you out there, are probably already the type to get the whole story before reacting, etc. But there's a lot of people out there who aren't, and they read those headlines and they form opinions, and that can have disastrous consequences. There's large segments of the population who believe things that are just didn't happen. It's just not true, just factually not true. But it was a misleading headline that got traction, and now half the population believes it happened when it was a misleading headline. So I think we have a responsibility to try to dispel those things in our circles, lovingly and kindly. Don't go berating people for believing things that aren't true. But always encourage people to get the whole story and don't just react at the level of the headline, because that's never the whole story. So that's enough on that story. The other story I want to talk about is a study that came out into mass shooting statistics, and basically the study's not. I mean, like the I didn't actually look up the actual study. I just read the news story on it, and but it didn't conclude anything shocking. Semi-automatic rifles are used 25% of the time in mass shootings, which, again, well, that's about what you would expect, because that's about 25% of the people who own guns have a semi-automatic rifle. It's about in that territory. So, again, people use the resources at their disposal. The other thing they found was that a rifle is more effective in a mass shooting than a pistol, which, again, not surprising. It's a rifle. But it was another example of the story that's linked in the description below is just an appalling example of the people writing the story and commenting on it having no idea what any of the things they're talking about mean. And yeah. So here's the thing, in the world you have people who are bent on destruction. They're frustrated with the world. They have some weird ideology, whatever they use to justify it. They're trying to. They want to wreak havoc in the world, right? Those people exist. They're all over the place. Not that many, but they're out there. And they all have varying levels of resources, varying levels of motivations, varying levels of resourcefulness and capacity for planning. And, where you have more motivation and or more resources and or more cunning, you're gonna get a bigger death toll. You're gonna, somebody who's more motivated, has more resources, and is smarter is going to accomplish their goal in a larger capacity. That's just the way the world is. And in the case of mass shootings, it's the same thing. And it's like, one of the things that I've commented on in the past is that, the reason we have more incidents in the U.S. that involve guns is because, guns become an option at a lower level of resources in the U.S. than in other countries. So the total number of people bent on chaos and destruction is the same, and roughly, it varies independently. Let's put it that way. And basically, the threshold between where they build a bomb versus where they buy a gun is different in America versus other countries. And again, there's another layer there of where they, go for the concealable handgun that they can, get to their location more easily, that doesn't take as much planning, it doesn't, et cetera, or do they do the extra planning and spend the additional money and whatnot? Maybe they don't spend more money. It's not that big of a difference. I actually just recently bought an AR-15 for $330, which was, so it doesn't take that much money to get it. But it does take more planning. Obviously it's harder to get a rifle into a place than it is a pistol. If you're going to commit a mass shooting, you have to get your weapon into the place that you want to do the mass shooting without getting shot in the process. And in America, that's pretty hard to do with a rifle, because there's a lot of people who might shoot you if you look suspicious walking around with a rifle and threatening people. So that's so again, basically what this statistic really showed was, not so much that these guns are that much more deadly, but rather that these guns are going to be used by more prepared individuals. So the person who's really not all there and just grabs the closest thing that goes boom and walks into whatever place and starts shooting, is probably not going to use a rifle because they'll get caught before they get there. The person who has a plan and, orchestrates things and arranges things ahead of time, that person is more likely to use a rifle. But since they were putting more effort into it, they were more likely to succeed in the first place, regardless of what weapon they have access to. And I guess that's the answer there. Again, as I've said before, guns are not effective tools for killing lots of people in a short period of time. I hate to put it that way, but it's kind of the case that, when you've got people bent on mayhem, if they're looking for their options of how do I do this, a gun is a less capable instrument of death than a bomb or even, again, simple arson. That's thankfully that's not a big thing here, but it is a big thing in other parts of the world. And you have a group of people you don't like, you find a place where they're meeting, you block the doors and throw a Molotov cocktail in there. That happens in other parts of the world, and the death toll is a lot higher on that. The resources involved is a lot lower, and it's a heck of a lot harder to fight against. So, sorry, that's a downer. But I'm running a little long here. I don't know if I made my point effectively or not, but I guess try to understand the issues before you comment on them, as is illustrated in the news story linked below, and also in the Serena Williams situation. Make sure you understand the situation before you act on a headline or make your opinion, etc., etc. So, hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again tomorrow.